This lesson we're going to represent and solve multiplication of a whole number and a fraction that refers to the same whole. So it's the TEAC 5.3i. And when we're talking about multiplying fractions that refers to the same whole, basically we have a whole number. Say for example, this is my whole thing. My whole number 1, and it's divided into 3 equal parts. So we're talking about 3 parts here. Each of these is referred to as unit fraction. So in this diagram, I have a unit fraction of 1/3. Now, our TEAC tells us that we need to know how to solve a multiplication of a whole number. So that means if I were to have 3 groups, say for example, 3 groups of 1/3. I am saying 3 groups of 1/3. That means I have 1/3 here, another 1/3, another 1/3. I'm basically adding 1/3 3 times. Now I can use a diagram and look at that. There's 1/3, there is 2/3, and my thirds make 1 whole. Okay, so my answer should be 1 whole. Now, when we're multiplying by a whole number, we need to make sure we can represent our whole number in fraction form. So instead of drawing, we can also turn this into fraction form. 3 over 1. That's how I'm going to represent 3 whole. I am going to multiply 1/3. In multiplication of fraction, our steps are multiply numerator and multiply, I'm just going to use the symbol, denominator. You take care of both numerator and denominator. So in this instant, you will see we are multiplying 3 times 1 gives you 3, 1 times 3 gives you 3, 3/3 really means 1 whole, just as our pictorial diagram says. Now, if we're going to get a little bit bigger, instead of looking at just the unit fraction, it says we have to multiply fractions that refers to the same whole. So with the same whole, we are going to go just a little bit bigger. I'm going to erase this. So I'm going to keep my whole as thirds. So I'm going to go back and draw my whole thing. This whole thing, I'm still going to work with 3 parts. But this time, instead of the unit fractions that I'm multiplying, I'm actually going to multiply, I want 3 groups of 2/3 this time. So that means I'm going to write it as 3 groups, 3 times 2/3. So what that looks like on pictorial diagram, I've got 1 2/3. Okay, I need 3 sets of this. So really I can continue to draw another whole that looks just like this. 1, 2. And I am going to shade in another 2/3. Orange. And finally my thirds, the third group, there's 1/3. There's another third, makes 2/3. I should arrive at the answer of 2 whole. The picture tells me my answer, 3 groups of 2/3 is equal to 2 whole. Now, I'm also going to go back and represent this in fraction form. So writing this in fraction form is 3 over 1. I'm going to multiply 2/3. And numerator multiplied by numerator is 6. denominator, multiplying by denominator is 3. I'm going to treat this as a division problem. 6 divided by 3, I have 2 groups with no remainder. Therefore, my answer is 2, just like the pictorial diagram. Okay, so that is multiplying a whole number with earlier the unit fraction and also a fraction that refers to that same whole.